Welcome to the KICS EMAP podcast, a podcast where we interview important leaders in education from Europe, Middle East and North Africa, and the Asia and Pacific regions. I'm your host, Ryan Allen, assistant professor at Soka University of America here in Orange County, California. My own background is in international and comparative education. Let's start the show.
I'm excited today to have this live podcast at CIES in San Francisco. And we have a representative from the government, Sri Lanka, Jayani Prishangika, and from civil society, Bangladesh, Syeed Ahamed, and then academia, Indonesia with Santoso. So thank you three for joining me today. If we could maybe just get started with a little bit about ourselves, what's kind of your background and what do you do?
Actually, I'm an education administrator, having more than 22 experience in working in Sri Lanka. So during my career period, I have been working as a school principal, education administrator, who was responsible for policy development and strategic planning. Until recent transfer, I have been working as a Director for Policy and Planning in Ministry of Education. My responsibility was to develop strategic plan for the education sector and also to make aware others on evidence-based planning as well as strategic planning. And then currently I'm working as the Distance Learning Promotion Director, where I am responsible for make aware the students on digital platforms and then make policy decisions on how the digital education engage in Sri Lanka education. So then I think thank you for having me today. So I'm really interested in answering your questions.
Sure. No, thank you. I love that you have this experience on the ground in schools as kind of sort of principal, and then now you're at sort of the level of government. That's really great to see. So thank you for joining us today. Maybe we'll go to Santoso.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Santoso. I'm a director of a research institution in Indonesia. Call it Article 33 Indonesia, and basically we have three type of works. One is doing research, is knowledge production. Second is we also advocate the result of the research to the policy development. So partnering with the government in national and also subnational level. And then the other thing also, we develop the capacity of people in Indonesia regarding the education development. So right now we mostly working with the Ministry of Education in Indonesia, helping them to develop academic papers, research, and also to help them to develop the evidence-based policy in the government. So yeah, mostly we work closely with the government on that, and also we have a couple of projects in subnational level to dealing with the subnational government, and also of course school with developing principal, teachers, and also student in many places in Indonesia. Mostly it's in the remote area.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I see you're at the intersections of academia and government and civil society. I mean, you got them all, it sounds like, connected. So that's going to be a great perspective as we move through the conversation. And last but not least, Syeed, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks. I'm Syeed Ahamed. I started a think tank in Bangladesh. It's called IID. So we aim for an IID society. We call that informed, inclusive, and democratic society, and particularly in that order. As you say, without being informed, it cannot be inclusive, and without being inclusive, democracy doesn't work. And we do so. We have a 3I mission, we say you inquire the evidence first, what the people wants, what the country wants, and then you inform through proper research communication, capacity building. So you inform the people, and then once they're informed and you involve them, both at the grassroots and also at the central level, to have informed policies. So it's inquire, inform, and involve is our mission. We also, be a partner with a number of national and global consortium. We host the CSO Alliance in Bangladesh, which is a alliance of NGO and INGOs. We also member of the PEL network that works on the assessment of foundational literacy and numeracy, and we are certainly a part of the GP, both with the Education Out Loud and the KICS program.
Great. Yeah, so you're right there on the ground implementing a lot of these things that we're talking about in some of these high-level meetings. So that, what a great perspective you have there. If we can start with diving deeper into some of our work, I would love to hear what's the biggest challenge that you're facing in your work and your organization right now, and we'll go reverse order. So Syeed, I'll put you on the spot first.
I think the biggest challenge we face now is the transition that we are going through. Civil society, when it started in my part of the world, it was mostly the 90s was the boom of the civil society. So it started with the background of the downturn of 80s, and with the fund crisis, economic crisis, and everything. So when the civil society grew, it not only focused on putting the government into accountable, but also at the same time in the West, their financing sometimes was based on from the government. In the South, even though the money came from different places, government was in the position to monitor and control that fund. But now, as we see that the global political scenario is putting a huge pressure on the civil society to find the different sources of funding, the funding space is shrinking, but more so with the way the politics is rising, the rise of authoritarian regime across the globe, also shrinking the civic space as well. So that's, I think, is the biggest challenge for civil society. It's I wouldn't say existential threat. We have overcome things before, but it's a transformative experience and how we steer through. I think that is the biggest challenge we have now.
Wow, yeah, that I can definitely see relations to some of the things we've been talking about at this conference. Santoso, if we can go to you, are you also seeing these kinds of budget kind of issues, or maybe what do you have in terms of some of the challenges that you're facing?
Okay, so let me summary in three things the great challenge. One is human resources. So if we try to more productive on develop a good research, then the challenge is finding a good researcher. So of course there are a lot of university that have academicians and also researchers, but the numbers, the quantity, and also the quality is still challenges. So to make sure that they have a good research product is still challenges, I guess.
Right.
Second is about the access to data, so education data. In Indonesia, we have a couple of things that public can access data, but it's still limited. Yeah. For example, we have national assessment data that publicly available. Other data may be like administrative data is sometimes difficult to be accessed. The other data from the Statistical Bureau, for example, is quite in Indonesia is quite expensive. It's not free, so that's also, I think, the limitation why the research product is limited. It's because of the data availability is also the problem. The third is how to communicate the research product to the government in the policy development. So No, this is better than before in the awareness of the government in using data on the umbrella of evidence-based policy development. But still, of course, because in Indonesia we have more than 500 subnational government, and the education is decentralized. So dealing with central government is not enough. So we have to go down to the subnational level, and because of huge number of subnational government, then dealing with them to make sure that the evidence-based policy need to be accommodated in that way. It's still challenges for the research institution like what I manage now. So that's the trip.
Sure. That I could see how that fragmentation of the government is just so challenging, and I'm sure there's I know there's context on all part of the country and islands and sort of this massive landmass that you have to kind of govern. That's an incredible challenge, certainly. Thanks. And then finally, we'll come back to Jayani. Do you want to talk a little bit about the challenges you're facing?
Yes, when you ask about challenges, the biggest challenge, the first answer that comes to my mind is that how do we face the regional disparities in Sri Lanka? Because, though it's a small country, we have a different disparities in Sri Lanka because mainly regarding the infrastructure. We have different kind of weather conditions. We have different kind of economic and social conditions in Sri Lanka. You know that we have 10,000 plus schools in Sri Lanka, but according to my understanding, there's 10% of schools we are having less than 50 students, and then as a policymakers, we want to ensure that they are getting equal access to education, as we have a pre-education policy that we need to give all the students pre-education from primary grades to university level. So then because of we are allocating only 2% of budget for the education sector, and then we are struggling how we equip the schools mainly in the rural areas where they can't access for the parents assistance, or maybe the old boy associations assistance, or maybe the development societies association. How do we ensure that they all are having the equal infrastructure facilities as well as the human resource facilities? And you know that now we are in a doorstep of initiating education reforms in Sri Lanka, especially the curriculum, because society and the parents are shouting to the Minister of Education that still you are having that burden curriculum, which makes the students, which creates the students more competitive in the classroom. So now we have initiated the new curriculum reforms for grade 1, which is focusing especially with the digital and AI initiatives. So then now we are struggling how we are going to implement those introduced curriculum reforms in the schools where they can't access to internet or any signals. So those are the main, this is the biggest challenge that we are facing as Sri Lankan Minister of Education.
Great, thanks. And I heard something that I think is truly universal, is parents complaining about the schools or what's happening, or they, maybe complaining isn't the right word, but they have an investment in that, and they want what's best for their kids, and there's probably disagreements about what that looks like. That happens in the United States, certainly. I'm sure it happens maybe in your scenarios and countries as well. Yeah, great. I think there's a great book coming out, Syeed, and it's kind of inspired this question a little bit. So I don't know if you can say some more about your book, but what did you get wrong in the past? I mean, that's such a healthy question to ask, because you have to know why something didn't work to sort of get better, I guess. So do you want to start maybe, and we'll kind of jump around, but since your book project, if you want to jump in and sort of talk about that question.
Sure. The book that you mentioned, actually, just before coming here, on the last week, we kind of prepared the book and published and brought the copies here. Because today is IID's 13th anniversary. So what we compiled is 13 times. We were wrong more than 13 times, but we compiled the 13 times. We thought that we were really doing good, but we got things wrong. And what we learned, and if we were to do it again, how would we start again? So the one that I would like to share is, when we talk about the consultation and doing things grounded, even the current initiative that we have with UL, it has like you have given a long period to work on your concept and everything, and we made it very participatory. We have our local partners. We would go there, we would do interviews, KII, all the checkbox things that we did, and we developed the program. And one of the thing was about you work with the young people there. Now we have also our initiatives where we have been working with young people from across the country, from the rural Bangladesh. So when we developed the program, we realized that it is very grounded with the with the local need, because we spoke with them. They were in the drawing board to design with us, our local partners. But then at the implementation stage, we went there to visit in one locality, and we stayed there for a few days. The lived experience changed everything. When we bring them to the table, or your local partner bring them to the table, or you go interview them, so many NGOs have been there, so they sort of kind of train now what to say. But the life they live, the reality they have, you just need to be there and observe, otherwise it's not possible. So we got so humbled, we realized that the plan that we made, it wouldn't work there at all. And we have just, with all these proposals and saying that we have made it participatory, and we got red-faced that thinking, because we didn't live there for some time, that reality is not there, and how would we change? Luckily, I think our partners understood, and they let us change the initiative at the very beginning. So things like that, how we participate, you ensure participation, or how you think that you actually heard the rural voice. There have been more cases that we have got wrong.
Sure. Thank you. And I key on that word that you said, humble. Like we were humble. We were humbled by this experience, because it's in that moment that you learn about, okay, what can we actually do? What can actually work? So that's fantastic. Well, let's jump over to Jayani. Do you want to talk about maybe your experience with something that maybe you got wrong in the past?
Well, yes. I think especially as a administrator who was working with the political leaders, because without considering the party, we have to work with them. So I think I believe that when we asked to explain, when the new government comes to the power, they asked to explain what was the process, or what was the process that you followed to make plans. So actually, I think the most bad thing that we did was we made decisions, we made plans based on the personal agenda. Though it should be evidence-based, I think in Sri Lanka, most people don't understand that should be evidence-based. They are coming to the seats, or they are coming to the chairs with predetermined ideas. So then what they need to do is, they are not thinking about the pilots, or not thinking to make it inclusive. They try to implement what they have predetermined, decided. So I think that is the most wrong thing that we have ever done in Sri Lanka. If we did it evidence-based, or maybe with pilot studies, I think we can say that, we were successful. So I think that should be corrected, as not only me, as all Sri Lankan administrators.
Great. Yeah, I mean, the challenge of removing our personal biases, it just seems sometimes insurmountable because our biases make us human in some ways. So we have to work together and with others to sort of try to check those. So that's fantastic. Santoso, do you want to jump in here?
Okay. So I would like to underline one thing here. So because it's also maybe happen in other countries. So education work is long-term work, right? Like generation to generation, something like that. The problem is the decision on the policy is a politic things. This is maybe this one is academics things that you develop the foundation, you develop the system, something like that. But in the end, all of things is like political decision, right? And if political decision is changed every 5 years, the administration is changed every year. So sometimes we are frustrated with, we developed like long time ago in the foundation of a curriculum, for example, education system, etc. And then the problem is when you change the administration sometime, and mostly also they change the vision, something like that. So we try to go there, and then the different administration go something there, and sometimes we go back with here, something like that. It's like, I think that's it's a lot of debate on this. For example, can we do something like long-term planning, like 25 years? So in some case, in some area, that politics can touch this kind of thing, something like that. So that's one of the debate that, but of course, in reality, of course, politics is our reality. It's democracy is our reality. Then we have to follow that. So the challenge, I think, that how to maintain this kind of thing. We know that it's something that we cannot. We can accommodate this kind of things. It's democracy. It's politics, something like that. But how to make the development of the education system that is a long-term work is still in the pipeline.
Sure. It sounds very similar to maybe the experience in Sri Lanka in terms of, you're working with different political parties and different perspectives, and so there is this experience across the country. So that's great. But I kind of want to switch gears a little bit, because I think sometimes in this space and sometimes at these conferences, we often focus on the negative side of things and what's not working and, what we need to be working on. But I'm curious about a success story, something that you're excited about to celebrate because, wow, look at what we accomplished. So we can start yes, please.
Yes, actually, the success story of my life when I was working as a policy and planning director for the Ministry of Sri Lanka. That was creating a culture of inclusive planning, establishing a local education group first time in Sri Lanka. Because during my period, I was able to get the GP membership for Sri Lanka, and then as a result, actually what was practicing in Sri Lanka was preparing plans is a job done by the Ministry of Education with consulting only the government part. And then actually after having this local education group, I was able to take all the counterparts, including civil society agents and teacher unions, and as well as all the donor agencies into one table, and then we had a workshop to get their ideas before preparing education strategic plan. As well as I had a chance to join GP Kicks learning cycles. So, and then that in the initial stage it was difficult to get 6 members for the learning cycle, because they have not a culture of participate in those kind of knowledge sharing basis. So then, but I was able to find 12 members for 2 cycles after posting so many posts in social media and giving so many calls and sending WhatsApp messages.
Yeah.
But that it was really successful, and we were able to extend that experience into a country level. I mean the ministry level, then and the regional level. As a result, for this year, for the learning cycles, without my intervention. Actually, I'm so happy to tell that without my intervention, there was so many competition to get in.
Yeah.
So I think my 2 success stories are having leg in the ministry. It was really challengeable, and then having our government officials and all the other counterparts to create knowledge sharing experiences. So that were the main experience, and then during that learning cycle, actually our people get used to using data and evidence on making policies and plans. So now they are practicing it, and then we were able to train 125 officials in Sri Lanka based on the experience that we had during the learning cycle. So now actually I had 100 planning officials who is responsible for making regional level plans. Now I'm happy to see that they are also analyzing data, collecting data, and they are trying to make their strategies based on the evidence that they are getting through the analysis data. So I think that are the things that I need to share with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like what you did is left a legacy. It's no longer I have to do this work, but I have empowered and emboldened a whole set of actors to do that. So that's what we're all trying to do, I think, in this space. So that's wonderful. That's great. Santoso, do you want to jump in?
Yeah. In Indonesia, I think in general that after the political reform in 1998, we have a big political reform. Then the role of non-government institution is bigger and bigger. Nowadays we have couple of groups. GPE, CIES, one of them, but we also have other groups, interest group in education, that their role in involving in the policy development is bigger now. So, for example, previously we have a lot of works with Ministry of Education to reform couple of policy on curriculums, on national assessment, on teachers. So a lot of things that we have done used by the government. So they open the door on the role of this non-government university researchers, etc. Currently, we fortunately I lead like one consortium, education researcher consortium in Indonesia, and we now helping the parliament to revise education law. And because education law is actually like the umbrella of all the education system in Indonesia, then the parliament is also see us as a strategic partner to develop this revision of the education system law. So I think that's the success story, that now our voice is listened by the government and also a parliament. And now it's depend on us, of course, to use that kind of opportunity to develop a good and rigorous research and to communicate this result to the policy development. Something I think that's what happened.
Yeah, great. I mean, it's one of those things, like, we want people to listen, and we want people who are listening to also have power, so that we can have some sort of implementation. And then that sounds like what's happening in your case. So that's great. Syeed, do you want to hop in?
I would start with the last summary that you did, that you want people to listen, and they are in the position. I think we were. It's not so much of our success story. We were merely an enabler, but it's the success story of the youth in Bangladesh. So what we did is a decade back, we realized that we bring in the youth in our seminar meetings all the time, but the way we speak, the way our jargon, our public policy language, that somehow get lost, and we fail to kind of connect with them. And we realized that their participation, we were also making it bit tokenism. So what we did is we started working with them. Initially, that we'll train them, or we'll try to understand them. Gradually, what we developed, we call it a youth policy camp. It's a 5-day residential camp where from data collection to on the last day, working with and pitching their idea to a member of parliament or a bureaucrat, So they will learn the actual policy advocacy process. And then they go back to their own area. Then they train 25 other peer members within the policy camp X. So then peer-to-peer learning. Over the years, they have established what we call is a big network across the country, Youth for Policy Network. So the Youth for Policy Network now have branches all over the country, and what they do is that they go to their community, to the government officials, to the education officers, to the schools, and because they are the communities, their own children, so they feel very connected. And any initiative they took, for instance, in Bangladesh, High Court said that every institute should have a sexual harassment reporting committee, but the schools forgot, they didn't. So our youth, youth for policy member, YP members would go to the schools and establish and advocate them to establish those committees. And if there is they will go to the schools to encourage the children to take plantation initiatives. So they will go to the schools to do the school budget more transparent. So it's now a youth-led movement in the grassroots that started with mere capacity building program. Now have their own committees. They are the one make the decisions. They are doing it in the local, all these areas. So so this whole youth-led social accountability model that's working, we are really excited about.
I love it. I mean, why are we doing all this? It's for the kids. It's for the youth. And I know it's cliche, but they say the youth is the future. But that's actually true. And I know it's exciting when you're on the ground and you see that, and you see the students grow, and they become policymakers or leaders themselves. That's an exciting time, especially as educators. If I can maybe talk a little bit about maybe some of your individual roles in terms of civil society, government, academia. I'll start with civil society here. How do we embolden kind of a broader civil society to kind of overcome maybe some of the challenges that we're facing within our systems?
I'm glad you asked the question in a difficult time, because earlier we always talked about it, because the core idea of civil society is that they're independent and they are not always united, and that was the beauty of it. Because you see government, someone can come and say, hey, I represent the government. There is a hierarchy there, right? UN system, there is a hierarchy there. Business system, there will be association, there will be a hierarchy there. Civil society, you have this self-organizing power, which means if there is a one network, next day there can be another network and say, hey, we are civil society as well. And we have seen that if you try to make it too organized, then there are gatekeepers come in, and then some civil society will decide who will be in the seat or not. Because the beauty of the democracy, civil society were also lacking partnership in many areas. We, honestly speaking, we do compete for projects and funds. So that also, there is a competition. Now, what we can do and what's happening now is because of the challenge that we face, the global fund crisis, the oppression of the authoritarian regimes, are forcing civil societies to be, partner with each other.
Yeah.
Sharing our innovations, sharing our lessons learned, sharing our resources to even, do frugal innovations and do, frugal initiatives that are more impactful. I think that's working better. But one of the things I would say, and I think that was also a part of the story, that one of the mistakes that we made is, while collaborating civil society, finding ways that complement with each other, and it doesn't create a crowd out effect, right? So you are good at something, they are good at something, and so find a niche area that can strengthen each other instead of challenge each other.
Yeah.
So I think that was the area civil society gradually can become more stronger in the coming days.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I just think to that kind of idea of pressure and time gives us diamonds. And so right now, as you open with, you said that this is a challenging time, but at the same time, innovation's coming from that challenge potentially. So that's a great message. We can go to Jayani. You can answer the civil society question, but I might throw you a little bit of a twist here as well, because you work in the government, and I'm sitting here as an academic, and we often sit over here in our ivory towers critiquing you and your work. So I'm wondering if what do we get wrong? What do academics maybe don't understand, or do you see something where maybe you're saying, you're in your classroom, you don't get it? Is there anything like that, or have you seen that in your work?
Yes, I think the main issue between the academia and the government, and as well as between the civil society, I think we don't have a sound communication between us. We don't have an interconnected relationship between the duties we are doing. Because we are doing researches in my country also. We have so many academia, they are doing researches, but the problem is what they are focusing on. Whether they are focusing on the policy related researches, I think as the academic society, it's okay, you have to do, me also doing my PhD and all, we have to do researches in order to accomplish our academic success. But we have a right, we have a duty doing researches what the country requesting from us. So I think my suggestion is, as in Sri Lanka, I think maybe Bangladesh also will agree and Indonesia will agree, we need to strengthen the collaboration between government, civil society, as well as the academia. Government, we are making policy decision. Academia, you should give us the policy recommendations. And the civil society, you need to be there to give your hand to implement the policies that we are making. In Sri Lanka, the main challenge we are facing is we have so many policies in documents. But if we go to the implementation level, very less has been implemented. So I think my suggestion is we need to have a good collaboration. You need to do the researches as the academia, you need to give us the policy recommendations, we will prepare, we will draft, and we will get the approval policies, and then development partners and the community will be there to implement the policy decisions or the recommendations. So that's what I can share.
Great, yeah.
Can I jump in?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's interesting discussion on this. Yeah, so I have keyword on this case. Yeah, what we call bureaucratic knowledge. So like 10 years ago, I learned from somebody in Indonesia about this. So because we're thinking about why is it lack between the product knowledge from the academician, from the researcher, and the policy development. Like just said that there are a lot of papers, research evidence gitu, but why government cannot use that? Is it because of the governments or the research itself? So I would like to see from the perspective of research itself. Yeah, that's the problem of the researchers in doing research is that they don't understand the bureaucratic knowledge, because government have their own logic, right?
Yeah.
For example, if you do a planning, then they have to do step by step, and they have their own timeline. They have their own logic on this, the way they use the budget, for example, because what the government afraid in case of Indonesia, maybe also other country, it's not about the right or wrong, but they're afraid that they're going to jail because of the misuse of the money, for example. So the perspective is different. That's why the researchers need to understand, need to understand the timeline, need to understand the way the government doing the planning, need to understand the perspective of government itself. So when the researchers, academicians understand the what we call it bureaucratic process, then actually we can involve them. It's not my experience. It's not the government resistant on the knowledge. I don't think so, because the government itself also there are a lot of academician actually. Yeah, there's somebody who PhD also in the government process. So it's not the case. The case is that we not connect the both perspective on the researcher as they have rigorous methodology on doing research. This is the perspective of how to use the budget, the money, to get a plan, to solve the problem, something like that. So I think connecting this, the knowledge, the perspective of this government, the perspective of government in one perspective use, then we connect.
Great.
I think that's what my experience also in that.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, you really have the unique perspective of kind of bridging that divide, because you work so close with the government, but you also kind of have one foot in academia. So that's, I think, an astute observation. And, you know, I would agree with, hey, more academics need to maybe work in the government, or, you know, have one foot in, one foot out. So that's a really great recommendation. We're kind of coming to close to the end, maybe like one or two more questions. If we could maybe talk a little bit about your work with CIES, or sort of some of those international cooperations that you've been a part of. Santoso, we'll start with you since I think you were the last previously. So
okay, so like we discussed before about the lag between the researchers, academician, and the government. Then one of the problem is, like I said before, that the problem is the capacity of the researcher itself. There are a lot of researchers in university, in the government itself, in the non-government institution, and everything. But the problem is sometimes the product itself is not really can be used, because it's just you just do it as a researcher, something like that.
Yeah.
So with the CIES event, we have the last learning cycle is doing the capacity development for not only the research from specific place, but we previously, and nowadays actually still in the process, we have a program, CIES have a program for about 50 researchers from university, from the government body, even journalists, I think, and then schools, and also subnational government in the place. So a lot of people, we have this program to develop their capacity to produce to use data, available data, and then develop a policy brief. And we plan to communicate this result, to disseminate this result to the government, to other canal, to make sure that they to make sure that actually we can do that, to make that aware that data is actually everywhere, and connect between different parties, different stakeholders in education. So hopefully this initiative can be success and can be replicated also. Maybe this initiative from the CIES, but actually can be replicated by Indonesian people, its government or something like that. So
sure.
So then Yeah, I think that's one of the initiative and effort that then develop the awareness that this education issues, this education problem is actually everybody problems. So let's do something together, and then we can, step by step can improve the education system in general.
Great. Yeah, I love that KICS can be that sort of possible success in terms of the challenges that you're facing in communication and these other kind of lack of coordination. So that's fantastic. Syeed, do you want to hop in?
I think I would connect with the previous question there, because
Sure.
that's what we probably do. We sometimes see that the academia, when we are very rigorous in our research, we get very frustrated that the politicians don't understand, the government, the brokers don't understand. And many times we see that we get lost in translation, and we also do not see their priorities. Like, for instance, in education, it's a long-term game. You invest now, you are not getting the benefit in 5 years terms.
Yeah.
But you want a electoral democracy where the politician needs to get and show some result to the constituency, to the voters within 5 years. So why would a politician invest in something that's their result would come in 10, 15 years when there will be another political party? So it defies the system of electoral democracy. And this is the challenge we're facing. On the other hand, we also sometimes do not understand that, again, to Santoso's point, that they have their own priorities, own trade-offs. But more importantly, also our reports, these English, boring papers that we produce, and the policy brief that we produce, and we feel that the policymakers and others should actually understand it. So we get annoyed, and if we are asked everyone to do something, they would just say, "Oh, I cannot dumb it down." But in reality, again, with UL, also at part of KICS, the thing that we are doing now is to address it. How? First of all, we realized that it's not like you dumb it down. It's like an academia at the very initial stage. When you know more, you explain things more in a complex way, but up to a point. After that, if you know more, you can actually explain things in a real easy way. The others will understand, others can relate, align. So we said, break that barrier, make things more understandable and bring them together. So for instance, with UL, as part of GPE, we are working on from evidence to action, but we also sit with the KICS National Steering Committee, where we also bring in others and to create a partnership. We push the partnership more. In Bangladesh, I think it's one of the few areas where UL, KICS, and other GP initiatives, the system transformation, we have been able to bring them together on the same table with the government and facilitating the challenges that we have in the problems that we have in understanding each other, and have a more honest discussion about it, and so how we can help with each other. And I think that is also a big focus of KICS there as well, that we have been a part of.
Great. Yeah, I love the idea of making things more simple and easier to understand, because I think too often in academia we have these theories and it's very dense articles and writing, and so it's great that KICS can be that kind of translator, or sort of get it to the masses, or get it to people who maybe they're not going to read a journal article, but they might come to a meeting, or they might read a policy document potentially.
And just to note that
Sure.
I do maintain that when things are too complex, we do not call it that it's more learned approach. Making things simpler, we say it. That's when we can tell that we have learned more. So you can say things simpler only when you know more.
Yes.
So which means we challenge the academia, saying, if it's too complex, that means you still struggling, to understand it. Because if you understood it really well, you could actually go to a child and explain it easily.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wonderful. We can go to Jayani. Do you want to talk a little bit about your relations with KICS? And
Yes, actually, I was the chair for KICS steering committee, and then because during that time, though we had the KICS national coordinator who was really busy, then I had to cover the KICS duties for national coordinator also. So then I think I believe that this is a very good initiative for Sri Lanka, where had less experience on inclusive planning and in inclusivity planning, and then I mean the policy making and all. So because the idea that I mentioned earlier related to the academia was mainly limited to Sri Lankan context, because as Sahid said, it is true that they are doing many researchers, and then but the problem is when we are trying to find some evidences for as a sound background for our policy decisions, it is hard to find related researchers in Sri Lanka, because mostly they are doing the researchers based on their interest only. That's what we were faced. I can remember so many instances. And then if I turn again to the KICS, because we had a chance to do collaborative studies between our regional neighbor countries, we were able to start SIPCA project, which is doing with Pakistan and Maldives, and then I think it's a nice experience for our academia as well as the administrators. So then now the project is going on, and then also we have made aware all the academia. We invited all the academia to the ministry with the help of our KICS national coordinator to make them aware that what should be your focus on doing researches, and how the government is ready to give you assistance with KICS grants. So now I think we hope that the evidence-based culture, data science and all will be changed because of these KICS initiatives. And then in the Ministry of Education, we have established GP KICS task team. So then their duty is to find academia or maybe the researchers who are seeking for grants, and then we ask them to send their proposals to the GP KICS steering committee. We are going to evaluate those proposals, whether they are ready to address policy gaps, and then we will write to GP KICS to bring grants to Sri Lanka. So I think because of GP KICS, we have received so many things, including sharing international experiences, and then as a KICS national coordinator and the KICS steering committee chair, I had many chances to participate in international conferences and uptake forums, where I was able to get more experiences with my colleagues. So then I think when I went to Sri Lanka, I was able to share those experiences with my colleagues, and then actually in Sri Lanka, our administrators are really weak in making decisions following data analysis or the evidences. They just try to make day-to-day plans based on their experiences and their ideas. So I think now because of KICS, now they are practicing. Many of them are now engaged in the learning cycle in 2026 also. I believe the culture will be changed, and then because of KICS. And then if you go to our Sri Lanka education system, administrators, most of them, they know what is KICS and then how it helps Sri Lanka. So I use this opportunity to say thanks to KICS for helping us to change the culture in planning, especially.
Wonderful. Well, what I'm hearing is KICS, knowledge innovation exchange, that's exactly what happened for you, with your regional partners and getting that experience and sort of the synergies across that. So that's really great. Really living up to the name. We're kind of coming to the end, so kind of a final, maybe just a quick question to as a send off to our audience. Do you have kind of a final message that you would like them to hear? Maybe something you're a little hopeful for as coming up in the future, or maybe something you're looking forward to or you're going to be working on next. So anything like that for our audience. We'll start with Syeed first.
I think first time in our human history, we are experiencing change so fast that this is the first time a generation can tell that we don't know what would be the major job market in the coming years, right? Earlier, millions of years we did the same thing, thousands of years we did the same thing. It's different now. Because it's different now, it's exciting time, and I'm hopeful that if we focus on the children's learning, that make them adaptive to the future, will be do good, but we can only focus on that if we as civil society are also adaptive, right? You cannot teach adaptation or leadership or critical thinking to the children if we are not that. So all the things that we say that the fourth industrial revolution is going to require, I think the civil society needs to embrace them more now.
Great. Yeah, you're leaving us with a big idea that the next industrial revolution and all the things that it's kind of coming for. So that's wonderful. If we can go, Jayani, what about yourself in terms of?
Yes, I hope and I wish the education system in Sri Lanka, I think, will be changed because students, they are suffering with this burden curriculum. They had like very heavy school bag in their back, and then so many governments are trying to reform the curriculum and pedagogy, but I can't say they did not, but they were trying. Still they are trying the present even. So my wish, because I think this is a very good opportunity for me, but I'm really sorry to see that now any Sri Lankan students, now any Sri Lankan officers are coming to this kind of international experience sharing event. So my wish is the Sri Lankan education system and the way that the education administrators are thinking will be changed, and then they will follow the evidence-based decision-making culture in order to make the student more strongest to face the challenges. Because you know that most of the students in Sri Lanka try to fly to another country to do their higher studies because of this burden curriculum, burden pedagogy, and the way the teachers are teaching in the classroom. So I think my wish, the system should be changed, otherwise we won't be survived.
Sure.
So I think I wish the current steps that they have taken to change the curriculum and all the system would be successful.
Great. What a metaphor that you gave us that's going to stick with me, that the kids have the burden of a heavy backpack. I really love that visual, and I'm just sort of thinking about it, so thank you. Santoso, do you want to close us off?
Okay. So this is what I think, and hopefully it can happen in the future. So how to make the connection works, that's the key point. So we know that the knowledge is everywhere. I mean, I couple of days here in San Francisco talking with many people, from GPA, IDRC, KICS, other college in many countries, and I know that the storage of knowledge is there. I mean, good practices, paper, research, a lot of things. I think our homework is how to mix this knowledge that storage is in every cloud in everywhere in the institution, in the donors, in the development partners. How to make it works, how to make it influence the policy in many countries, especially of course in my interest is in Indonesia. We have a lot of, I think nowadays we do a lot of reform in Indonesia in developing the education ecosystem. We say that developing the better system in the future. Like I said before, that now we're revising the education law. Our education law is already 20 years.
Wow.
This is the first revision actually, 20 years. So a lot of system development there actually, because education system law is actually like the big umbrella for everything in Indonesia. Also, there are many issues related to teacher development, issues on school environment, issues on vocational education, and so a lot of issue. A lot of reform that they want to do, Indonesia wants to do, but the evidence is limited. What we know about evidence is limited, but I know that evidence itself is not limited. I mean, they're everywhere, right? And good practices in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, other countries. So I'm thinking about how to make it work. How to, we know we do the connection, of course, from the KICS IMAP we share knowledge. IDSC have many research. I met also Education Out Loud, is and other people that's. So how to make it? I think if everybody, you everybody hear this podcast, have resources to make it a good connection first, of course, that we connect each other in many canals, and then with this connection, how to share this knowledge, and then with this shared knowledge, how to make it like. Syeed said, to make it simpler, because government cannot say, but it's difficult to understand econometric, for example, it's,
right.
Impact evaluation, etc. That's maybe it's difficult, but okay, they will say a simple thing. Okay, what is your idea? We have problem in teacher development. What is your idea with our resources? That's answer we needed, right? And I'm sure that the answer is there, right? We just need, to develop this system, the connection system, the simpler knowledge package, and the communicate and how to communicate to the government. So if it is happen, I think will accelerate many things. I guess what we call and our mission about evidence-based policy development will be faster, I guess. That's my point.
Yeah, thank you. And he left us all with homework. We got to go out and always be learning. So that's what you can everyone can take away. So thank you for that. I know that's important. I just want to thank all the guests, Jayani, Santoso, and Syeed. Thank you for joining the KICS EMAP podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Allen, and thanks everyone for joining us today. It's been fun. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
And that concludes our KICS EMAP podcast. Of course, the opinions expressed on the podcast are solely those of the host and the guest. The KICS EMAP podcast is made possible by KICS, which stands for Knowledge and Innovation Exchange. KICS is an initiative of the Global Partnership for Education. Globally, KICS is administered by the International Development Research Center in Canada. NORAG in Geneva hosts one of our 4 regional KICS hubs. Find us on the NORAG or GP websites, where you can subscribe to the podcast and newsletter, or learn about other activities, including KICS research project updates. Additionally, you can follow us on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, or YouTube at KIX EMAP. You can also directly subscribe to this podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, and you'll receive notifications of each new podcast episode. Thanks for listening.